We have a closed cap we have a closed caption link for today that we will share in the chat. You can also use that link to get the transcript for today. You've likely noticed that attendees are in listen-only mode for this webinar. This means that the audience and interaction during today's event will occur through polls, the chat and Q&A pods found at the bottom of your screen. So let's start with the poll to gauge who we have in the audience with us today. Another great feature of these webinars is our live Q&A. If at any point you have a question for the presenter, you can ask it in the Q&A pod. We will do our best to address questions, but we do have a tight schedule. So any questions we don't get to will be answered in writing and posted on the event website. You also have the option to upvote any questions that you find valuable. The more votes a question gets, the more likely it is to be addressed live. So stay tuned to the Q&A pod and let us know your thoughts. All attendees will receive 3 CLPs for participating today. CLPs are expected to appear in your FAI CSOT transcript within the upcoming weeks following the event. In the interim, please pause on submitting any external training requests to allow that time for the Express class CLPs to post on your official record. There's also no sign-in, so the system automatically captures your attendance. What that means is you don't have to chat us your email because we've already captured it. Now, I'll turn that back over to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Now let's take just a minute and look at these poll questions. Hopefully everyone was able to see the poll questions. They should have popped up in a little pop-up box for you. There's only 3 questions, and I see people are still answering it. So I will give y'all just a couple more seconds to answer. I know we have to keep rolling with things here, but that first question is, please indicate whether you represent, and it's either federal, state, local, tribal, or other, so we know who our audience is. Then the second question, what is your role in your organization? Are you acquisition, contracting, procurement? Are you a program management or project management? Are you a SME or an analyst or other? And the final one is, what is your level of expertise in MAS IT? Because that will be our first training session that we're getting into, our first topic. So just wanted to get a little feedback on all of that. I am going to go ahead and end the poll. Please don't worry if you, for some reason, didn't get to answer, it's okay. But hopefully everyone got a chance to answer. I'm ending it now. I'm going to share those results. And it looks like, oh, the vast majority, 99%, are federal government, with just a few state and local other. And then we have mostly acquisition, contracting, procurement professionals. And most people are saying they are novice or intermediate with MAS IT. All right. Excellent feedback there. All right. Everyone, please close out that poll window now that it's complete. The agenda for today's event will focus on navigating the dynamic information technology landscape with a detailed exploration of GSA's MAS IT and the advantages of GWACs. We will also discuss leveraging MAS and BPAs to address your IT requirements. Our expert panelists will provide insights into GSA's latest cloud offerings, the 2GET hardware program, and the OneGov strategy for cost savings. This event aims to foster a collaborative environment for discussing technology challenges and solutions, preparing you for future advancements. That's enough from me now. I would like to turn it over to Andrea Azarkan-Heller, who would like to briefly talk about the tech acquisition community of practice. So Andrea, the floor is yours. If you would come off chat and we will spotlight you. Or come off mute.
My screen, or do you want to share my screen?
We can either way. Actually, Jocelyn, do you want to go ahead and share a screen for that slide as well, please? Thank you.
Awesome. While Jocelyn pulls that up, I'm Andrea Azarkan-Heller. I am the FAST Generative AI Program Manager. So I'm the Generative AI Program Manager on the Federal Acquisition Service side of the house. And you've probably see me in a past life as the artist formerly known as Acquisition Training for the Real World and Acquisition Gateway University. So we have the slide up now, the Tech Act Community of Practice. It's a 500+ community managed by me and Jessica Massey, who is a contracting officer at Department of Agriculture. Show of reacts. How many people have heard of the Tech Act Community Practice or are part of the Tech Act Community Practice? So I'm getting some thumbs up and some hearts. Awesome. So for those who aren't familiar, and I'm going to drop this in the chat too. I mean, you see it on the slide, but that being said, there we go. In order to join our rag of contracting folks from across the federal government, I put instructions in the chat. So basically you'll send a blank MD subject line email to request@listserv or Tech Act, whatever. It's in there and you can see it on the screen. I'm not going to read that with all the hyphens and things. But what we're doing is having conversations around tech, but in the context of how to buy it in particular. So what does that look like? It's cores, contracting officers, procurement analysts, all under one roof. And it's a safe space where we're sharing resources, promoting best practices, collaborating across agencies, because IT modernization, it's not just tech, it's about getting the right contracts done faster, smarter, and in plain language. So what does that even look like? An example of that is when the FAR overhaul, efforts started, and I saw what was happening around market research, and I'm going to turn this off because y'all seem to be joining the listserv because I'm getting a lot of pings, which is awesome. I had a question around like, what does that actually mean? And when I was reading FAR Part 10, the new FAR Part 10, what stuck out to me was the word appropriate as it relates to market research and doing appropriate market research based on whatever you're buying and how much it is and all that stuff. And so I was like, that's interesting. How are people thinking about the word appropriate? And so a day or two earlier, I had used generative AI to help me pick out what I was going to eat for lunch that day. And so I used that process of market research for what ended up me buying a sandwich at a deli and like outlining the process. And was that appropriate market research for me buying a sandwich? And people had all sorts of feelings, let me tell you, and opinions on whether that was appropriate market research for buying a sandwich. And if you can imagine there was that much feedback on buying a sandwich, you can imagine what those conversations have and will be and will continue to be like for IT, whether it's cloud, whether it's generative AI, whether it's telecom. And the nice thing about that community is it's a space where you can have those discussions and get engagement from others on what they're doing, what they've seen, as well as feedback. And yeah, it's been really awesome to see it grow over time. And if you're interested in joining the 500+ community, the information is in the chat and on the screen. Tech Act /COP-subscribe request at listserv.gsa.gov. Yes, I know I said I wasn't going to read it, but I'm going to do that anyway. And make sure you send it with an empty subject line. Otherwise, it's not going to come to me to process today. And so one of the things that we're working on is trying to do better at scheduling, but normally we do these on Wednesdays. We're actually having a session in about an hour from some of the folks working on the FAR overhaul, Scott Simpson and Bonnie Evangelista, who are currently on a detail with GSA. You might know them from the DHS Procurement Innovation Lab, but they'll be talking about the FAR overhaul. So that's the Tech Act Community of Practice. Great resource for folks like you. We do events, we share information, we have working groups, and that's my time, right?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much, Andrea. Great overview. All right, so yes, everyone, please go join the Tech Acquisition Community of Practice. Really great information. I know I have joined it, and really good information from there. So I encourage everyone to join. Thank you, Andrea. Now I'd like to introduce our next speakers. Brian Gladney is the director of the Fastlane Division for the Office of Acquisition Operations and Solutions within GSA's Office of Information Technology category, or ITC. As an unlimited warranted contracting officer, Mr. Gladney oversees an acquisition workforce of contracting officers and contract specialists, whose mission is to identify, vet, and onboard high-quality IT vendors into the MAS program. Tyrese Jones is an acquisition leader with over 15 years of experience. He serves as a contracts division director within GSA's Consolidated Multiple Award Schedule program under the information technology category. In his role, Mr. Jones is tasked to design and lead innovative acquisition strategies and initiatives to make it easier to do business with the federal government, especially for small and non-traditional businesses. All right, Brian and Tyrese, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We're so excited to be here today and to present and share with our fellow colleagues in the federal government and across government who work in the acquisition space to talk more about how we're accelerating government IT acquisition through the multiple award schedule participation underneath the IT category. As Kelly outlined and gave such a gracious introduction, I'll be joined today with Brian Gladney, who is also my counterpart within the Office of Acquisition Operations. While we're presenting today, we'll actually have additional subject matter experts. And so special thanks to Kenneth and to Rachel, who will be helping us out in the Q&A box. So feel free to share your questions that you may have for us, and we'll be trying to get to them real time as you put them in the Q&A box. And then also we'll leave time at the end of our presentation to answer any remaining questions. We want to give a shout out to our executive leadership team within the IT category. As Kelly outlined, we are part of the Federal Acquisition Service side of the house, and we're led by our Acting Assistant Commissioner, Mr. Lawrence Hale. Ms. Cheryl Thornton Cameron is the Deputy Assistant Commissioner for Acquisition. That is the side of the IT category where Brian and I sit in supporting the acquisition vehicles and solutions that we'll be talking more today in our session as well as throughout today. Mr. Joe Lundy is also our Acting Deputy Assistant Commissioner for Category Management, supporting our customer needs and ensuring that you are able to find what you're looking for amongst our acquisition vehicles. And Ms. Evelyn Rutherford is our acting Executive Director for Enterprise Technology Solutions to ensure that you'll be able to find those innovative solutions as you modernize your agencies and keeping up with the demand where it comes to IT modernization, as well as the available solutions out there to make it easier and less expensive even to meet your mission. But overall, within the IT category, our goal is to leverage our buying power to create relationships where you have access to a wide range of IT and telecommunications products and services, as well as solutions. We primarily do this through the multiple award schedule, but we also have government-wide acquisition contracts available that you can find those innovative solutions to meet your mission and to meet your requirements for your various agencies. So today I'll provide more information about the multiple award schedule, information technology solutions, give you more background about the multiple award schedule in general and how we play a role in that consolidated environment. The multiple award schedule consists of 12 large categories where IT sits in one of the 12 large categories. So we'll talk more about what makes IT unique in relation to those categories. Then we'll talk more about the top multiple award schedule IT initiatives that we have in place now to promote smarter spend across government. As you all know, the Trump administration and his executive orders have really encouraged us as an agency to use and leverage our buying power to make it easier and smarter for us to acquire those IT solutions and tools to meet our requirements and our missions. And then finally, Brian would jump in to talk about how we're keeping up pace to making buying IT easier through our Making It Easier initiatives within GSA. So let's get started with the Mass IT background with more information about the multiple award schedule in general. So I was paying attention to the polls and I realized that most of you are novice or early entrants into what the multiple schedule is about. And so this is a great opportunity to, really get some information about the schedule. It's a great market to be able to locate your solutions no matter what you're buying. It is a program that has been around for a considerable amount of time that consists of long-term pre-vetted contracts that give you as a government buyer an opportunity to have access to commercial products, services, and solutions at pre-negotiated pricing. And so with that in a nutshell is that GSA does a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the early work to ensure that we have established these relationships with our industry partners to provide our government buyers, no matter what you're buying, the commercial solution, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a particular service or software. And then we also establish that relationship that those pricing is already pre-negotiated. When then just the whole program alone, we have over 13,000 vendors providing those solutions. There's a lot of strong participation from our small business community, as well as increased participation from our regional manufacturers. We'll talk more about that not only in this presentation, but you'll hear more about our OneGov strategy throughout the day today. Under the multiple award schedule, you have access to over 30 million different products, services, and solutions, and it is available to you. So if you're in this meeting today, most likely you have access to utilize and leverage this program to meet your mission's needs and requirements, whether it's IT or professional services or other large categories. In a nutshell, within the program, our contracts are fixed price with provision for keeping up with the market through our economic price adjustment terms and conditions, as well as ensuring that those contracts are free to do as much market participation as possible. So there are no limits as to how much those contracts can sell to federal agencies and to provide their solutions. The ordering period is continuous, so there is no open or closed date to the solicitation. And so feel free to leverage the tools that you have access to in this presentation. There's links to our websites such as gsaadvantage.gov and other tools in which you can leverage ordering from the multiple award schedule. But also keep in mind that the type of task orders that are applied against the schedule are firm fixed price, time and materials, and labor hours. So that means there are no cost type task orders that are acceptable to be applied to the schedule. But if you need more assistance, feel free to reach out to our subject matter experts. They'll provide you further details on how you can get support in that area. So more benefits and features of Mass IT and what we provide within the multiple award schedule program. Within that 30 million products and solutions within the program as a whole, 7.5 or so of those products are within the IT space. As I mentioned earlier, we do pre-qualify those vendors or industry partners to ensure that they are eligible and qualified to provide those solutions and services to you to meet your IT requirements. We encourage competitive and flexible pricing structures. So that means is that depending on the commercial best practices of that industry partner or that vendor, we try to make sure we duplicate that on the government side so that we can ensure the proper relationship and tailor those terms and conditions as appropriate so that as you as the government buyer is procuring and acquiring these solutions, there's an equal playing field, if you will, as if you were just a normal commercial customer. But with all this information that we're sharing, we do provide free training support from our subject matter experts, including scope reviews to ensure that you are detailing and outlining your requirement clearly to our industry partners so you can find what you're looking for efficiently and effectively. But as always, we want to make sure we keep up with the trends. So if you are looking for a particular industry partner or a contractor, if you're looking for a particular solution or a widget or an item, and you're having a hard time locating it within our multiple award schedule platforms, we do offer free services such as market research as a service, or MRAS. There'll be more information provided later to provide you direct access or pathway to locating your solutions and even the vendors that provide them. And then also we want to make sure that we are offering the latest and the greatest in solutions on schedule. So there is a new and innovative company, or as you have mentioned earlier, as it was mentioned earlier in my introduction, those non-traditional businesses that don't typically operate in the government space, but it's something that you are interested in working with and you see a solution that you're looking to leverage, then let's talk about bringing them on through our hands-on support through our EASE program, in which we will provide that concierge support to guide them through the federal buying space to ensure that their solution is available to you as a government buyer. And then as an industry partner, they'll be prepared to shift over to the federal buying space. In this slide, we'll be providing more information about the special item numbers, or SINs, and which you actually can locate those IT solutions and requirements for your agencies. I'm not going to go through each of these 6 links, but I wanted to provide this in the slide to ensure they have easy access to locate what you're looking for. But these are the subcategories under Mass IT in which we have basically designed a way for you to streamline and locate where you're looking for. So for example, if you're looking for a laptop, you'll find that in the IT hardware. If you're looking for, let's say, Adobe Acrobat Reader type software, then you'll find that in the IT software location. Please pay attention to the special item number descriptions that give you further details about what solutions and tools are located in those subcategories. Here's some additional tips on ordering from Mass in general. One of the great benefits of ordering from the multiple award schedule is its streamlined process under FAR subpart 8.4. So you don't have to have as much documentation and paperwork as you normally would have in a traditional fair open or a FAR Part 15 ordering acquisition. You're utilizing it instead of a request for proposal, since we have already established that contract. Instead, you will issue a request for a quote, or just issue a quote against or task order against the contract. We do provide support in your scope reviews. So as you build that statement of work, feel free to reach out to us and leverage our tools for your market research needs, whether it's USA Advantage or our e-library. As always, we encourage, because we have such a huge market power with our industry partners, we have done our due diligence at the contract level to establish fair and reasonable pricing for those solutions and tools. But there's nothing wrong for asking for additional discounts, especially for those large buys and those complex buys. We encourage you as a government buyer to seek additional discounts where appropriate. Just a reminder that for your multiple award scheduled task orders, you're not required to have a formal source selection evaluation board or source selection authority. A cost analysis is not required as well, because you do get commercial pricing at the Mass level. As I mentioned before, the documentation should be a little bit more easier to put together due to streamlined process under subpart 8.4, and it's less formal. I think the biggest benefit as well is that although we encourage small business ordering from Mass, it is not required to set a size. So for example, the rule of 2 does not apply to the multiple award schedule. So there's a lot of flexibility, it's a lot of opportunity for you as a federal buyer to locate what you're looking for and to ensure that you have the flexibility and the ease to be able to order from that supplier and to get your IT requirements fulfilled. Next, I'll briefly go over some of our top initiatives for Smarter Spend. Um, our top goal is to bring maximum value to your IT procurement activity, especially in today's market that we're doing a lot with right sizing the multiple award schedule as a whole. We want to make sure that we have the right appropriate players in the market. And so we're working with our contracting officers to ensure that we have productive contracts that have favorable terms and the best pricing for our IT requirements. We are increasing through our OneGov strategy and supporting that focus on bringing in more of the original manufacturers. We see a lot of value with the resellers and the value-added resellers that participate in the market, but also want to make sure that we leverage our overall buying power as a federal government to have those relationships with the original manufacturer to get the ultimate best pricing. And then finally, for the spend under management, which was spearheaded many years ago by the Office of Management and Budget, a lot of our solutions do fit in the best in class program. So as you look at your tier spending, you can rest assured that as you're purchasing IT hardware and software and other solutions through the multiple award schedule, that you are supporting your agency's goals to increase smart spending and supporting your agency's goal to spend under management. So a part of that spend under management is that recently we have launched our Scripps BPA program. There has been a lot of emphasis in GSA to make it easier for our federal agencies to identify risk within your supply chain. So we created a supply chain risk elimination and professional tools and services blanket purchase agreement, or Scripps, which is basically a suite of tools and solutions to do just that, to help reduce your risk in your supply chain by providing data analytics support and business intelligence, also empowering you as an agency to screen and ensure that your supplier is reliable and secure. So for more information about Scripps, here's a brief glance at what the BPA supplies to you as a federal buyer. Number one, it is available to use now. The buying period started back in March, and it's expected to extend for the next extended years through 2035. And so this is a long-term relationship opportunity in making sure that your agency is protected in the supply chain and have the ability to monitor and make decisions as appropriate. The federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial government entities. So if you're looking to learn more on how you can order and leverage this also opportunity to monitor and have greater control of your supply chain, please visit us at www.gsa.gov/Scripps, SCRIPTS. So now I'm going to hand it over to Brian. He will talk more about how we're keeping up pace with making buying information technology easier. Over to you, Brian.
All right, great. Thanks, Tyrese. So the multiple award schedule, or mass IT category, has remained committed to providing the most up-to-date product and service needs to all GSA customers, while providing opportunities to both businesses large and small. A major part of GSA's ability to meet this need is by providing new and innovative methods to optimize all of IT procurement across the federal government. The initiatives that are unique to this effort exist with both the Startup Springboard Initiative as well as the Fast Lane Initiative. These initiatives have empowered large and small businesses to provide federal government, state and local government, and tribal entities with new cutting-edge technology at the same pace, if not faster, than what is offered commercially. In the following slides, we will go into further detail about both of these great initiatives and the unique nature of their capabilities that make it easier to do business through GSA for the federal government and all the others mentioned before. First, Startup Springboard makes it easier for companies with fewer than 2 years of experience or financial statements to submit for a multiple award schedule contract. Through Startup Springboard, a company may utilize an executive or key professional's past performance experience in lieu of the required years of corporate experience. Also, through Startup Springboard, a company will have the flexibility to provide supportive financial documentation that demonstrates the company's financial responsibility. For example, a line of credit, instead of the 2 years of financial statements required under a traditional e-offer submission. This program lets aspiring scheduled contract holders get their supplies and services to federal, state, and local and tribal governments faster. In order for an offeror to opt into the Startup Springboard program, they merely have to select yes to the question, do you have less than 2 years of corporate experience within our e-offer system? If the offeror has more than 2 years of corporate experience, they unfortunately will not be eligible for this program. Now, let's cover FastLane. The next program obviously will be FastLane. FastLane is currently only offered through the information technology category of GSA's mass schedules. While utilizing the FastLane program, eligible vendors get shorter processing times for contract actions that directly support federal agency requirements, state and local agency requirements, as well as the tribal government requirements. While agency customers get fast access to emerging technologies and innovative offerings, FastLane remains at the forefront of a great option under this initiative. Some of the major benefits of participating in the FastLane program are the benefits surrounding the processing time of submitted e-offers. The average processing time for the review and execution of traditionally submitted e-offers is around 110 days. Well, through FastLane, we cut that process time down to 45 days, and in some instances, even faster than that. The benefits of FastLane are not just limited to e-offers, but it also has great impact upon the maintenance of those scheduled contracts as well by means of modifications. Through FastLane, e-modifications are reviewed and executed within a time period as low as 24 to 48 hours after the receipt of the said e-modification to the assigned contracting officer. The only times that some of these timetables may be skewed are due to additional technical evaluations that may be required for a submission under our, for example, highly adaptive cybersecurity services or HackSyn or our CloudSyn. Now, let's further examine FastLane eligibility. To take advantage of FastLane in order to take advantage of the FastLane initiative, an offeror must indicate their interest to participate in the program during the e-offer submission process or at the time of e-modification submission. For current multiple award schedule holders, by submitting an eligibility checklist, basically GSA will not only provide the eligibility checklist to you, but we'll make sure that we work with you to fill it out and to have it top shape for our review. All other eligibility criteria are referenced here within our slides, and in the following slide, we will cover some agency-specific initiatives used for justification in the eligibility checklist. As mentioned previously, here are some of the most recent and relative approved initiatives for use in the eligibility checklist. Most recently, one example is our second generation IT or 2GIT blanket purchase agreement or BPA, our Defense Health Agency Enterprise IT Services. As Tyrese had mentioned earlier in our slide deck, the Supply Chain Risk Illumination Professional Tools or Scripps blanket purchase agreement. Additionally, other IT initiatives that arise, such as contract modification initiatives, And for any and all non-GSA IT initiatives, vendors must have a written request from the federal agency, state and local agency, or tribal government ordering activity, stating that the vendor should participate in the Fast Lanes program to support their IT requirements. This written request must be included in the e-offer submission package. To assist you further, we have included some key mass IT resources that will serve as great points of reference, answer further questions you may have, or offer additional detail to some of our finer points from today's presentation. Lastly, thank you all, and please do not hesitate to let us know how we did today, and as well as if there are any further questions that we may be able to answer for you. With that being said, I'll hand things back over to our moderator, Kelly. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Tyrese.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Tyrese. That was really great information. Definitely a lot of insightful information there. I found it so interesting, just all these new things GSA is coming out with, all these exciting things like, the fast lane and things that are making things just faster. For example, the fast lane going from 110 to 45 days, stuff like that. Just really exciting stuff that we're able to share. Things like, Springboard and scripts and just all of that great stuff. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. Let's go ahead and look at some questions. We have some time for Q&A here. So let's jump in there, and I know, feel free if you've pulled out. So like, I know Jocelyn has been helping back up, but Brian and Tyrese, if you've been looking at the Q&A too, feel free to jump in and address any that you want, or I can pick out some of the ones I've been looking at.
I think I see one. How do you procure from a company on GSA schedule who is the manufacturer, but their authorized small business distributors do not have GSA contracts? In the past, we could do in care of on the award. I'm not sure what that means, but I have heard that is no longer allowed. Brian, did you want to take that one, or would like me to?
You can tackle that one and I'll hop in.
Sure. So if you're ordering from a scheduled contractor, then that's what you're ordering from that manufacturer. So if the manufacturer has the contract and you want to place an order, then oftentimes within that contract, you may want to check the terms and conditions because they may have an authorized dealer that may be authorized. So if McDonald's, for example, has a contract with Tyrese Jones Incorporated as the small business that's offering you your Big Macs, then you would issue the task order against McDonald's contract, but specifying that Tyrese Jones offered the Big Macs. And so that would be the agreement that you have with the chief contract holder, which is the McDonald's or the manufacturer. Typically, we also have reseller contracts in which Tyrese Jones may have his own GSA contract. And then he may be using McDonald's, so McDonald's as his supplier for the Big Mac. So that's different from that question. But typically, if you're ordering from the scheduled contract holder, whether it's a manufacturer, it is going to be delivered by the manufacturer unless they have a dealer that's authorized in their terms and conditions to leverage that contract, and it'll be specified in the terms and conditions. As always, you can always ask the contracting officer that's assigned to that contract if you have any additional questions.
And just to add to that point, Tyrese, and I think that was duly noted, in the event that there is somebody who is a vendor or a contract holder that's different from the manufacturer, if they're interested in it, they merely just have to have a conversation with said manufacturer and get a letter of supply, basically indicating that they are authorized to sell said, product or do whatever. And that all can be facilitated and added to a lot of not only the terms and conditions, but the products themselves can be added at a later point in time through modification. Now, the same can also be said that once those letters of supply have been removed, or let's say they expire, those same actions need to then be removed from schedule so as to comply with the terms of that outside agreement between the manufacturer and the other schedule.
Great. Looks like we have a few more questions, a little bit of time for a few more questions. And thank you for your answer. I think everybody is like craving a Big Mac at this point. We love that. So we have another question, and it says, between Mass and GWAC, which acquisition vehicle is best to use to buy HIT services? And when should I pick one over the other?
So I would encourage you to use our market research as a service solution within the agency, because I'm not too familiar what encompasses HIT and specifically which environment to really direct you to either vehicle. I am confident that if it's IT related, it probably is available, solutions are available in either vehicle, but leverage our market research as a service to really provide more details to that expert to be able to guide you.
So, another question is, how do you procure from one company on the GS schedule who is a manufacturer, but the authorized small business distributors do not have GSA contracts? In the past, we could do an in-care of the award, but I've not heard of if this is no longer allowed. I think we muted.
You're on mute, Tyrese.
My apologies. I think we answered that question earlier before.
Okay.
That
Sorry
was
about
the question that Brian and I tag team. So I don't want to.
Absolutely. Let's keep it moving. I think we have just a few more minutes. It says, we would like to discuss IT service and products available other agencies via interagency agreement. Can you expand a little bit on that one?
I would say if you could just reach out to our ITCSC@gsa.gov with more details about that. We do establish interagency agreements, particularly most notably recently, we have established one with DoD's Defense Innovation Unit to transition those that provided prototypes and solutions for their IT requirements and transfer into a FAR-based environment, right? And so that they get more easier of a time in ordering from them. So we can talk more about that and create those interagency agreements. I'm not authorized to say more about what's entailed in that, but feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure to establish that conversation.
Wonderful. Looks like we have a couple questions regarding the recent announcement of the removal of the mandatory requirement for the SIN ancillary. So if it's applicable, is that applicable to the current discussion? Do you have any information regarding that removal of that SIN?
I don't think, because I caught some of that, my audio is going in and out. So you were saying something about SIBR?
Absolutely. Let me start that over. It says, looks like we have a few questions about the recent announcement of the removal of the mandatory requirement for the SIN ancillary. Is that applicable in this scenario? Can you discuss a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so we have had a recent refresh for the multiple award schedule solicitation that has adjusted some of the terms and conditions, including our ancillary SIN. There's a lot of training that's coming down the line. I'm still learning more about the changes, so I probably shouldn't go into further detail, but there has been changes about the utilization of that SIN. We are scheduling training that is available, so please get activated into our listserv. But also, if you have a direct question, feel free to send us an email and we'll get a subject matter expert assigned to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another question we have, it says, do you have any updates on the rumors regarding Mass incorporating cost contracting and the GWACs going away?
I do not.
Absolutely. Okay, and it says, are the contracts built to allow the use of the GPC for payment?
Yes. So we do the GPC, the government purchase card. Yes. That's part of the terms and conditions of the multi-award schedule program, is that we do affirm that the government purchase card is accepted by all of our Mass contract holders.
Wonderful. And it looks like we have another follow-up question to us. As you mentioned, a SSEB is not required under FAR Part 8.4. Were you referencing a sole source award, competitive, or both?
Both. So there's no SSEB required underneath subpart 8.4. If you want to get more information about that, gsa.gov/MAS or MAS is a great tool that provides you more information as well as a ordering guide as what you can utilize. And there's even templates and things like that to support your ordering.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think we just have a few more minutes, so I'll take another question. It says, can we purchase certain brand for IT continuation, or does GSA only provide lowest cost technically acceptable?
So with the mass solicitation is an open solicitation for all brands. So we most likely have the brand that you're looking for. However, when it comes to ordering, you may want to check the rules for your agency when it comes to brand name justifications and things like that. Those type of requirements are still in play. But you may want to check with your senior procurement executive to make sure your agency has certain requirements for that type of procurement activity. But the solicitation as a whole, we invite all brands. We don't specify or designate as far as who within industry can participate.
Yeah, and I'll just comment here. One of the famous sayings our executive Cheryl Thornton Cameron always says is GSA sells everything from pencils to airplanes. So it truly means that we provide any and everything. The biggest thing is if there's something that's not currently on schedule, it's only a matter of time before we add it to schedule. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we did get a lot of questions in, and just so you know, if your question did not get answered, we will make sure that the questions are being captured, and we will provide a written answer posted on our website at a later time. So, Kelly, I'm actually going to turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much. That was so much good information there. So another really big thank you to Tyrese and Brian, and you, Jocelyn, for running that Q&A. That was excellent. All right, let's go ahead and keep going. Now I would like to take a couple minutes here and share some information about GSA's Market Research as a Service program, or MRAS. MRAS offers market research services for all federal, state, and local agencies. They can help save you time with your market research by posting RFIs on your behalf, also providing you with reports that identify the right GSA contracts and solutions, as well as providing GSA Advantage pricing data. So a lot of useful stuff there. You can click the link, so the slide hopefully is up there. And if you look at that slide, also Amy has been sharing the link where you can go to download the slide deck for today. So if you go to this slide about MRAS, and you can click the link on the top right of the slide to submit your request for GSA Market Research Services. So feel free to do that. Also, you know, lots of changes have been happening. For example, the FAR overhaul initiative, that like so many changes. So that's just one example. And if you want to learn more about stuff like that, you can come and join us or join MRAS for their trainings, their monthly trainings. And it says, come learn how we can assist acquisition professionals research GSA solutions and pricing for government contracts by joining the MRAS team on their monthly training. So if you would like to do that, the link to register for those monthly trainings is also on the slide, and it's at the bottom right. Also, if you have questions about MRAS or any of this, there's another link at the bottom left where you can submit questions about MRAS. So definitely go to the link, download the slide deck, check out this slide. And if you want to learn more about market research as a service, you can join those monthly trainings, you can submit questions, all that good stuff. But they have lots of good information to share there. So I encourage you to check that out. All right. Now we are actually running slightly ahead of time. So what I am thinking, our next session starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I am thinking we will move our break and do a very short break here. So go give yourself 8 minutes. We are going to start at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to jump in, and we have an amazing panel coming up who's going to share all sorts of great stuff about hardware, software, OneGov, all sorts of great stuff. So I am giving you 8 minutes. Go get some water, get a coffee, or go check your emails. But please, please, please be back at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hopefully everyone is back. It is 2 o'clock Eastern Time. So let's jump back in. I'm very excited to introduce our next session. We have a panel of experts that will share information about OneGov. I'm so pleased to introduce our panel moderator, Dan Hawley. Dan is the acting director for the IT Hardware Division in GSA's Information Technology category in the Office of IT Products. With over 20 years of experience in federal acquisition, Dan leads a team managing government-wide solutions for acquiring a full range of computer hardware, peripherals, and related services. All right, Dan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kelly. $5.9 billion. So far this fiscal year, that is the value of hardware, software, and cloud solutions being acquired through MAS contracts government-wide. Let me make sure I'm still on. Yep. And
We
today,
can hear you.
very good. Just getting pinged on my end, but we're good. Today, I'm joined by experts in these solutions, and we'll discuss how you can take advantage of some special solutions based on MAS and some new developments you can take advantage of today. Let's get right to it. First, I'll introduce Birgit Smeltzer. Birgit is the acting director of the Office of IT Products and the director of the IT Cloud and Software Division in GSA's Information Technology category. Thank you for joining us, Birgit.
Thank you so much, Dan. I want to just give you a little bit of a short version of our OneGov strategy today and provide some insight into some of our current OneGov activities. The OneGov strategy aims to modernize federal information technology procurements and is a government-wide approach to how we buy, manage, and scale IT. It reflects the direction set by a recent executive order 14240 to consolidate procurements, eliminate waste, and act as a single enterprise buyer, and Executive Order 14271 on ensuring commercial, cost-effective solutions in the federal contracts. OneGov is also about improving how government and industry work together, and we're starting with software. We're working on shifting the government from a fragmented agency-by-agency buying pattern to a more enterprise-driven approach. This means moving away from duplicative contracts, inconsistent terms, towards a shared acquisition pathway that delivers buying efficiencies, shared best practices, better pricing, predictable terms, and stronger cybersecurity. We're beginning by establishing direct relationships with original equipment manufacturers. We're also referring them to OEMs, by establishing enterprise agreements with standard terms, clear accountability, and pricing based on the full scale of government demand.
Thanks, Birgit, for that high-level overview. So we have seen some press releases come out from GSA highlighting some significant short-term discounts on certain software. Can you talk a little bit about those and how they fit within the OneGov strategy for IT?
Yes, absolutely. So these shorter-term discounts offered by OEMs through their current contracts, in most cases through their reseller channels, provide significant discounts now while we work on implementing direct relationships with the OEMs. As you mentioned, Dan, there's been press releases providing insight into those short-term discounts aimed to give access to immediate cost savings to agencies and their procurement of the discounted offerings. So these agreements demonstrate how the OneGov strategy supports speed, savings, and security while giving federal agencies room to innovate with best-in-class commercial tools. Our team continues to work with OEMs on additional discounts. So for today, I'll touch on those that have already been negotiated and awarded through their GSA multiple award schedule and announced through press releases. But stay tuned for other ones coming. Our team can support you in finding them on GSA Advantage, where you can also learn if the offering is restricted to federal agencies only. The first one I'll talk about is Google Workspace. For the first time, agencies gained access to Google Workspace at a temporary 71% discount, regardless of their size or order volume. This offer is good through September 30th, 2025. That pricing reflects the full buying power of the federal enterprise and eliminates the fragmentation of individual negotiations. So agencies now have consistent terms, uniform cybersecurity provisions, and a clear path to acquiring modern collaboration tools like Gemini, Notebook LM, and AI-enhanced productivity features. Another major step forward is our recent strategic agreement with Adobe. Adobe is offering a 70% discount off their GSA list price for their paperless government solution, available now through November 30th, 2025 to federal agencies. This bundle, as they call it, includes enterprise-level tools like Adobe Acrobat Premium, Acrobat Sign, Adobe Express, and Experience Manager forms, all tailored for government needs. Salesforce is offering 3 different types of Slack licenses, and depending on license type, varying in discounts from 65% to 89% off GSA list price. This offer is good through November 30th, 2025. And the last press release as of this week was regarding Elasticsearch. The discounts offered by Elasticsearch through their current reseller are based on total government-wide annual spend and deployment type. So the discount on Elastic's self-managed solution begins at 27.5% and up to 60% based on total spend. Agencies purchasing the FedRAMP moderate cloud version can receive discounts on Elastic software of 15% to 32% based on total spend. And those pricing discounts are valid through September 2027. So there's a lot of good things happening immediately, while the OneGov strategy has a longer approach that's working in the background. And you'll stay tuned for more information about that in future webinars.
So thanks, Birgit. So where can I go to learn more about the discounts?
We have staff to support you in finding the offerings on the GSA multiple award schedule. And one way to reach us is through an email by sending an email to cloudinfo@gsa.gov. And we welcome the opportunity to support you.
Excellent, Birgit. Again, that's cloudinfo@gsa.gov, correct?
That is correct.
Great. So Birgit, thanks for sharing information on OneGov. And next, I'll introduce Otis Frazier. Otis is an IT specialist in the IT hardware division in GSA's information technology category. Otis supports many of our specialized acquisition programs, including 3 blanket purchase agreements we'll discuss today. These include 2GIT, GSS laptop desktop, and printers. Thank you for joining us, Otis.
Oh, sorry about that. Good morning. Good morning, Dan. Sorry about that. Had a little problem with the button there. Glad to see you today. And first, I want to say congratulations as the acting boss of me. So, hardware division lead, Dan. I wanted to say welcome aboard on behalf of the team and thank you. I'd like to talk about the second generation IT category blanket purchase agreements today. As you mentioned, what makes 2GIT special, what makes it different, what is it? First I like to start off with saying that it's an approach, it's a strategy. 2GIT takes basically best practice contract vehicles and basically applies certain proven technologies and mechanisms and sets a template to allow people to more quickly expedite their acquisition execution. The good thing about 2GIT, just to give you a little history, it was awarded in 2021, so it's been around for a little while. And it provides access to commercial off-the-shelf hardware and software products and services, as well as some ancillary supplies and services that come connected with that purchase. It's a 8.405-3 BPA, firm fixed price. The greatest thing I think about 2GIT that is that the Air Force, with their high standards, want to make it mandatory for all the Air Force components. And so that includes, regular Air Force, Space Force, Air National Guard, Air Reserve. They've mandated through DAFMAN 1203, that 2GIT is the mandatory source for all of the Air Force components. And so those are, the kind of brief overview of what 2GIT is, kind of how important it is, and some of the benefits at a very high level.
Excellent. Excellent, Otis. So what safeguards do agencies get when they buy from 2GIT contractors?
Well, Dan, as you know, for this type of approach to be successful, it requires a continual collaboration with industry, research, resellers, OEMs, and fortunately for us, being with GSA, we bring a lot of that to table as part of the 2GIT, BPAs. And so, the good thing about employing the various teams at GSA for your acquisition experts, to help you with your strategy, is that you get the 2GIT resources. Mr. Gilbert Salas, he's the lead for the second generation IT program. He is definitely a foremost expert. He works with the former, a little bit, has contact with Mr. Ben Burns. They have a great relationship with the vendors and contract holders that are involved in 2GIT. And so those are some of the intangible kind of value that GSA brings into what 2GIT has. But the C-SCRIM component of 2GIT is kind of what really drives the safety of and the reliance of the infrastructure 2GIT. The C-SCRIM process is obviously, based on the NIST 800-161 Rev 1 SCRIM plan directive from NIST. And they also, when they put 2GIT together, they also couple that with the ISO 9001 2015 QMS systems to kind of keep the evolution, the change, the responsiveness of 2GIT up to the moment with the changes of, the IT market space itself. And, for that all to happen, the surveillance is essential. So 2GIT also has surveillance built into it. As the BPA is created, there's an initial assessment that's done on the supplier, their source of with the OEM, letters of supplies are formulated, and all that comes into the package. When you show up, that exists in 2GIT. And so all that work's kind of done for the people who are using that access vehicle.
Great. So what else can I get from 2GIT that I don't get as easily from buying directly from each SIN?
Well, the good thing about GSA SINs is they all are very robust, and there is a bit of overlap. 2GIT is one of those kind of specialized tools that brings in, like I kind of highlighted C-SCRIM. The way that 2GIT implements it is a little more in depth in that, so far they've been able to, taking the applied standards, they've found over 200 control findings. The top 3 of those being obviously security awareness training being missing from organizational infrastructures, flaw remediation, and risk assessment. And so when you get with 2GIT, some of those things that you easily get from using those SINs is that comprehensive package of assessment to your cyber screen and supply chain approaches. The other part about that is our value-added resellers. The tools that they have revealed over 1,700 findings, and that was in direct association with the 2GIT BPA development. Some of the top 3 risk vectors in there that are already, people are probably aware of nowadays because it's been around since 2021, but obviously security awareness training, the secure socket layer security certificates and configurations. The patching cadence, the frequency in which, vulnerabilities are managed and remediated. And then web application headers, the tools really come in handy there because that's a pretty tedious task that involves a lot of automated stuff. And all that is things that you kind of have to have as part of a holistic acquisition strategy as an underlying premise that the acquisition specialists don't have to deal with. So that is really the overarching key benefit, I think, that 2GIT brings to the table.
Wow, that's pretty comprehensive, Otis. So what options do customers have for researching 2GIT hardware and software?
Well, the fantastic thing about our organization here, Dan, I hate to toot our horn, but is that GSA Advantage website has 2GIT hardware and software loaded up already. So if you go to the Advantage webpage, that's one way to engage 2GIT. There's an icon there, a 2GIT icon, and it will drive you to the vendors and the offerings and the catalog availability at that time. Or they can contact our 2GIT help desk. Our support desk is at 855-482 4348. Pardon, say that again, 4348. Or they can just email the ITSC general mailbox at gsa.gov. So the folks know, the personnel are standing by from 8 to 8:30, Sunday through Friday, Central Standard Time. And so there's a little bit of gap there, but for the most part, we're here for you.
Excellent. Thanks for that overview on 2GIT. Next, let's talk about another BPA. That's government-wide strategic solutions for desktops and laptops. So what does the GSS blanket purchase agreement offer, which I don't get from ordering from the hardware SIN?
The thing that and I'm a little partial to GSS just because it was one of the first programs that I had any responsibility for here at GSA. So I like to think of it as a comprehensive strategic solution for desktop and laptops that makes it where the technical specifications come from the workstation category team that was tasked by OMB back in 2015 to develop this program for multiple government-wide acquisition contracts. And the GSS program began with the idea that we don't have a lot of centralized information about our acquisition strategy going back in to 2019. At that time, when they looked at the pricing variances, there was a range of about 300% variation from one agency to another buying the exact same model with the exact same loadout on their hardware. And so GSS was tasked to eliminate that. And as a result of that, they formulated a solution that basically for our technical categories that we created, we being the WCT, the workstation category team tasked by OMB, we created 9 categories, and those categories are populated based on the current market standard, current market needs, and the design of that list is to meet 80% of all federal system technical requirements. I really think that it's a great program, and that strategy definitely lets GSS meet 80% of the needs and have the ability to be customized as needed based on what the contract offerings are. If RAM upgrades, small things like that need to happen are kind of built into that vehicle. But us trying to figure out how to make that more efficient, they also included warranty considerations and those sorts of things. And there's also a little bit of asset management that's available as bundles that are part of the GSS program. And so I just think it's a great program and a great contract vehicle.
Awesome. A lot of features there. So what if an agency has recurring requirements? How might I set up a catalog with a BPA holder?
That is one of the kind of the secret gems of the GSS program. When you create a catalog for your agency through a GSS BPA holder, that allows you to have almost like your own mini Amazon for your agency at no expense. The vendor creates the catalog. It's comprised of the specifications you've directed based on your acquisition requirements that you've developed internally for your organization. And that allows you to basically cut down massive time on your acquisition lifecycle because these GSS contracts are pre-competed. So there's no RFQ round required. You're initially in the negotiation for, I'm buying 5 units, whereas you might not get a huge discount. But oftentimes our vendors, based on market conditions and those sorts of things, are able to work with you. So I always recommend folks contact the vendors directly, the BPA holders, the contract holders for the GSS set of contracts, and work through that part of it. Because if you have an order for 5 or 10,000 units, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a pretty good deal. That's just the behavior that our vendors, our contract holders, our BPA, our resellers, everyone involved in this program, that's what they've done historically over time. And so that's a huge advantage when you can just go to a single site, contact a person, have them reach out to the OEM for you, and then come back with numbers that are the best that they can possibly do.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk about another BPA that's near and dear to your heart that you've been working with for a while. That's the government-wide printer BPA. So this is a government-wide solution for printers. And so what manufacturers are available through this solution?
The fantastic thing about this vehicle, and thank you for acknowledging that, Dan. You also have done a lot of work on a printer BPA here lately. But we've got HP, we've got Lexmark, we've got Konica Minolta, we've got Canon. Those are the 4 OEMs that we have BPA holders for our government-wide printer BPA program. They have a wide range of offerings in those particular OEM offerings. And those are all the ones we have right now.
Excellent. So sounds like this might be similar to the desktop laptop BPA we just talked about, but what are some of the advantages of ordering from the printer BPAs?
Fantastic that you picked up on that, Dan. It is patterned after the GSS laptop program, taking all those strategic initiatives and the insight that were provided by OMB in that program, drove the creation of government-wide printer BPA. In that it's set up similarly, the competition. Typically what we've seen is a shortening of the life cycle for acquisition to about a 5-day turnaround from the time that folks have engaged our BPA holders and to the time that the order has been processed and ready to go. And obviously that depends on your local agency policies and regulations and funding. We're never going to ask our contractors or our agencies to violate the local policies and other organizations there. So we're going to be doing whatever we need to make it as quick as possible and get whatever additional requirements that you may have. But it's a very clean process, just like it is with GSS for the government-wide printer BPA. And that we hope that that's going to grow over this next year as folks become more aware of it. We're going to try to get some more information out there on that, as you know.
Excellent, excellent, Otis. So you shared a lot of information on these BPAs, and we'll just kind of run through them real quick here. The 2-Git BPA, that was for hardware and software that's commonly acquired, and that comes with some additional CSCRIM safeguards over and above what's already available and done on the multiple award schedule. We have the GSS desktop and laptop BPAs for approved configurations of desktops and laptops, and the government-wide printer BPA with commonly acquired solutions with advantageous terms and conditions. So Otis, we did cover a lot. We kind of just went a little bit into each of these. What are some opportunities to get some more information on these solutions and to learn more about it from our team?
Thank you so much for that question, Dan. As you could probably tell from the look on my face, I was eagerly hoping that you would ask that question. We have a July 10th event coming up here at GSA that specifically digs into the intricacies of 2Git and the GSS government-wide strategic solution for desktop and laptops. I'm going to also highlight some of the things that we're doing for the government-wide printer BPA, just kind of an aside. There's a added bonus that's kind of off script for hopefully that'll entice people to just at least tune in to the event. But July 10th, we are hoping to see folks turn out, and we're hoping that folks will adapt these BPAs and incorporate them into your acquisition workflows.
Well done. Well done. Thanks so much, Otis. And I appreciate the warm welcome to the team. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dan.
So next I would like to introduce my colleague, Skip Jench from the Cloud and Software Division of GSA's Information Technology category. Skip is a lead for the Cloud Special Item Number on the multiple award schedule. There are a lot of developments happening with this SIN, with more contractors and solutions being added every day. So Skip, let's jump right in. So Skip, tell me about what is available on the Cloud SIN. Is it only cloud services?
Well, it's cloud services and more. Thanks for having me, Dan. The cloud special item number is simply the subset of the GSA schedule that contains only cloud. the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, but it also contains the human labor hours that are cloud focused to go along with all that, from your cloud architects to your cloud application developers and so forth.
Great. So what's the most popular contract type agencies use for cloud?
You know, for years and years and years, government has struggled to figure out how to buy computers on a per hour basis. Back in the day, they started using a time and materials contract, not the materials, but the T for time, because buying buying computers by the minute, seconds, or hours is more like time than it is materials. But today, it's so hard for a IT shop to figure out what they're going to spend for the upcoming year in total. After all, each invoice month to month is going to go up and down depending on consumption. So how do you estimate that? The answer is it's probably next to impossible. So today, the favorite acquisition vehicle is actually the BPA, because the BPA carries no funding whatsoever, and funding can be gradually added month by month by month over the fiscal year, gradually, so that you can fudge it and approach your total spend instead of having to fund a total amount for the whole year and be dead wrong, way short or way over the mark. And that's why people like agencies like BPAs today.
Great. So I know there's been a lot of ongoing discussion about payment for cloud services. So what is the difference between an advanced payment and an upfront payment for software as a service, and how it relates to the cloud SIN?
That's a good question, because contracting officers have struggled with the regulation that the government cannot pay for something that has not yet been delivered. That stands to reason. But with cloud, it starts to get in the way, because after all, for software as a service, you might get a really good discount by buying software as a service, email or any other application, by the year instead of month to month to month. You buy it by the year, you get a great big discount. So if you buy a year's worth of software as a service, is that payment in advance? GSA has issued an opinion letter that says, no, it is not. It is not an advance payment, it's an upfront payment. And here's the difference. When you provision for yourself another seat in software as a service, you get access to that seat immediately. So something has been delivered, and you're not going to get that bill for the whole year of software as a service until a month later, the next billing cycle from the vendor. So it seems like you're getting contemporaneous delivery. That's the words of the opinion that GSA put out. Contemporaneous delivery of software as a service. For the first month, you're actually paying in arrears after the service is delivered. But for the next 11 months, you're kind of paying up front, or you definitely are paying up front. GSA's opinion implies that that next 11 months is actually a contract performance issue and not an advance payment issue. Any agency can reference this software as a service advanced payment letter in their acquisition as cover for their purchase. Now, what GSA did not do is take the second step and issue the same opinion for IaaS and PaaS, infrastructure and platform as a service. And that doesn't apply just for the GSA scheduled cloud special item number. That applies worldwide, so to speak, or market wide, that GSA opinion letter.
Great. So another question for you, Skip. It's about artificial intelligence. Is that available on the cloud SIN?
Well, it is, of course, because after all, artificial intelligence, 99.999 times out of 100 is software as a service. It resides in the cloud. Now, we all know about how AI is all of a sudden everywhere. it comes back at you from search engines, and it's just everywhere you turn, you're faced with some opinion from AI. However, if your agency is interested in buying the expensive kind, where you are charged every time you issue a query, or you are charged for a year's worth of use of AI or what have you, you can come to the GSA schedule, specifically the cloud special item number, and find all kinds of AI offerings right there waiting for you.
Right. So another somewhat payment related question as it relates to AI. Are AI tokens allowed on the Cloud SIN?
Well, it's funny, tokens in the government and for cloud specifically is actually a dirty word. Tokens imply that money is being paid up front and expended later. It's a deposit on account, and this is a big no-no with government. Number one, nothing has been delivered. Number two, money could conceivably be banked from one fiscal year to another. So that's a big no-no. However, in the IT world, we've had tokens for years and years and years. The kind of token that is passed from one compute architecture to another. It might be a text string, it might be a symbol, it might be a bunch of ASCII symbols or whatever. A computer token, not a dollar token. Now, this schema has been expanded into AI. In the case of AI, sometimes no one knows how deep AI is going to go to answer your question, and what kind of unit of measure shall vendors use to bill you for that on-demand service. And the answer is a token. A token can be a character string or any other unit of measure that the vendor comes up with, and that way you know what kind of unit of measure is being used to charge you for that AI use. There's one other thing. Some of the AI vendors are charging for these are sometimes called service tokens. These strings. Sometimes they again ask for money up front before you issue a query. Now that flavor of AI token is a big no-no. Again, allowing you to bank monies from one fiscal year to the other. Nothing has yet been delivered. Blah 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 blah. It's up to the buying agency to thoroughly understand what kind of token is being bought. Is it a service token that's being consumed on demand, or is it a provisioning token that's paid in advance? Nothing has been spun. No AI query has yet been issued, and only after an AI query is issued will the monies be relieved from as tokens from your prepaid tokens. That's a no-no.
So Skip, you've already shared a lot of information here, and I know that you have regular kind of conversations and trainings on how to buy cloud in the government. When is your next training session that you'd like to put out there for folks?
Oh, good. Well, shameless promotion. We're going to be holding an entire 1 hour how to buy cloud for government, covering FedRAMP, covering all this token stuff, all this, what kind of contract type, what is cloud, give you a definition of that, and so forth. An entire hour. It's on July 30th. If you Google GSA events, good old AI will come up with a daggone list of results. One of them will be the GSA events page. You will find all the GSA events there. How to buy cloud from government will be one of them. It's on July 30th, and I hope we get a big turnout.
Awesome. Thank you, Skip. So it looks like we have some time to do some general Q&A. So if folks have a question for our panelists, we have some time to go through some. So you can use the Q&A pod that's part of your Zoom meeting screen and ask away. Want to ask, have we received any questions so far?
Yes, Nam.
We-
Go ahead, Kelly. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yes, we gotten a lot of good questions. So Jocelyn, if you want to jump in, I'll let you.
Absolutely. So like Kelly said, we did get a lot of good questions, so I'll just start going through them. Our first question we received is from a procurement perspective, is there a difference from the DoD Enterprise Software Initiative and the GSA MAS?
Well, that's a good question. If you talk about DEOS, the DEOS, you know, good for them. They issued a BPA against the GSA schedule for one item and one item only. It's M365. So that BPA satisfies the dream of most contracting officers. You issue a task order and go and get all the 365 you want. There's no competition. There's no this, no that, no the other thing. I hope you meant DEOS, DEOS, Department of Defense people only. And that's the reason why that vehicle has been full of hundreds of billions of dollars of sales.
And I can jump in here also. Actually, that's a different vehicle. You're talking about the ESI program with the Navy, and that program, we work very closely with them, and a lot of their BPAs is off of the multiple award schedule. So there's definitely some relationships between the two. So if there's any specific questions, you can again use the email that we provided earlier, cloudinfo@gsa.gov, and we'll be happy to look at individual questions on that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So our next question is, where can you go to access the info on the discounts that are available?
Again, we're continuously negotiating discounts, so we have opportunities. So the list goes on. We don't have a list of them to share out publicly, but again, cloudinfo@gsa.gov gets you to the team that can provide you insight into what the current discount structures are.
Wonderful. Looks like we have another question on OneGov. It says, does OneGov have a target annual savings target?
I am not sure that we have a target annual savings targets. There are the metrics in place.
Perfect.
At least not for now. And I may not be the right person to answer that question, to be honest with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we'll just move on to the next question. So the next question is, can you do a fixed price contract with an award fee?
I think that was related to GIT. Not on the multiple award schedule.
Absolutely. And we do have another question more specific to the TUGIT. It says, is there a TUGIT waiver similar to the CCS3 or DPI waiver process? If yes, is that not listed on the GSA TUGIT website?
Well, I can answer that one. Otis here from the IT Hardware team. GSA doesn't issue any waivers. Any waivers that you may be referencing will be coming from your local organization or your major command above your local organization. We create these BPAs. The mandate comes directly from the Department of Air Force. And so they control what access you have and how you can circumvent, if it's allowable, and all those sorts of things. We have no control over that.
Wonderful. And it looks like we actually have another question while we're talking about TUGIT. It says, does TUGIT address the SAP?
What part about this? When we say SAP, are we talking about special access programs? I'm not clear. If I can get a little more definitive on that acronym, I'll probably be able to answer that question more.
Oh, no worries, no worries. And what we'll do is you can add that back into the chat. We'll move on to the next question. But if we have more information, just add that back into the Q&A pod, and we'll get to that if we have time. Okay, and so the next question is, how does TUGIT work with the Nassau soup? I often go to the TUGIT, and it seems to me that it's Nassau soup.
I am not familiar with that. I'd have to see the specifics of that question. NASA soup is not part of GSA. I can definitively say that, even though I may be probably the newest person here. I can definitively say that NASA Soup is not part of what GSA does. We have government acquisition vehicles that are better than NASA Soup, so I don't really know anything about NASA Soup. I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you for that answer. Okay. And it looks like we have another question. It says, why doesn't the 2GIT have a single tab to browse all the QEB, SDR, and NIPR pre-approved computers and printers?
That question is one that I'd have to bring back to our web development team. But I can tell you just from a programmatic standpoint, some of the items that you asked for would not be data housed by a single entity. So as you cross the agency lines between one organization being GSA and the other one being the Department of Air Force, there are going to be constraints on the data that's allowed to exist in certain interfaces. And so the specifics, we can get those to you if you really need them. But more specifically, it has to do with data management that we're all probably keyed up and geared on based on the changes that we've had and the executive orders we've seen. So if there's more information needed on that, I can point you to the right team.
Wonderful. And just a reminder, as you're asking questions, we are capturing all of the questions, and those will be sent out at a later time, the answers to those questions. So if we don't get to your question or we need a follow-up to that question, just remember that we are capturing all of the questions. So we'll move right on. It says the different branches of DoD have requirements that are specific to them. Is there coordination with the different branches to create anything that would be specific towards the requirements in their policies?
I'll take that question if I may, just because it's a shameless plug for our July 10th 2GIT and GSS event that's coming up. I almost want to make it a cliffhanger, but the reality of it is, pardon my throat there, the workstation category team is comprised of NASA Soup, GSA, NITAC, and the Army Digital Marketplace, the artist formerly known as Chess. And so when we develop the category specifications for our 80% to meet the government goal, we work intimately with those folks. As a matter of fact, we are heavily involved in bringing you all that AI-enabled government furnished equipment that you're so desperately and eagerly waiting to get your hands on. So we are actively promoting and going through what will be GSS version 11. We're now currently on 10. Some of those items are starting to appear on our catalog in 10 as the OEMs are exhausting the previous legacy models. But yeah, we definitely have a great roadmap and a great relationship with industry here at GSA. And so I think that'll always meet that requirement because, the digital market space folks are great, very technically adept, and they've had a lot of input into the specifications over the course of the years.
I think another example there is just how agencies can award blanket purchase agreements on their own based off of MAS. And what we talked about a little bit earlier about the DoD Enterprise Software Initiative, that's a lot of different blanket purchase agreements that have more specific requirements that have been cleared by the different DoD components. And so that's an example of how DoD has been leveraging the multiple award schedule for their kind of coordinating requirements across agencies.
That's fabulous. But we're still getting questions, wonderful audience interaction. So let's keep it moving. So our next question is, can agencies without a contracting officer use GSS and BPA programs? It says an example, does GSA provide contracting officer services for these streamlined programs?
I feel like I should be responding in part to this, but I want to defer to my boss who's sitting here watching me work. And I wanted to let him go first. And then if he needs me, I will chime.
I think, and I'll take the first answer here. So I think it really depends on the dollar value of what you're trying to buy. If it's a onesie twosie under the micro purchase threshold type of acquisition, then yes, someone with a government purchase card could go directly to GSA Advantage and make a purchase. If it's a larger threshold, then that would need a contracting officer, and there's different services within GSA, including the assisted acquisition service that might be able to assist. I think that is a good part of the answer. Does anyone have anything else you'd like to add?
If I could just dovetail a little bit on that, I also would just like to also say that we have access to the other people, and some of that is part of our program itself, but we like to do it through your constraints based on your acquisition strategy. So this is one of those answers that Dan doesn't like us to give a blanket answer. He likes us to give a custom answer that fits your strategic goals and initiatives based on what we have available at GSA.
That's wonderful. And it looks like we got several questions just wanting a little bit more information on providing that. It says, where can they find the link, or where can they find that GSA opinion letter? Is that something, looks like they're looking for a link or more information regarding that?
I can jump into that. So I think you called it an opinion letter, Skip. It's an acquisition letter, and it was acquisition letter MV 2024 -01. And that was, it was issued on March 15th on 2024, signed by Jeff Kosis, our senior procurement executive in the Office of Acquisition Policy. That letter informed the change on the multiple award schedule. So really what matters is the change on the multiple award schedule and the IT category attachment in the mass solicitation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And it looks like we have another question regarding, it says, is there a such thing as a BPA for Microsoft Azure? We use Azure, but have noticed cost appreciate rapidly with the changes.
So currently GSA does not hold a government-wide BPA for Microsoft Azure. If you have if you don't have your own BPA set up, we can certainly have a conversation about how to go around doing that. That might be helpful in your pricing structure.
Wonderful. Our next question, are there plans to do a two-step, which is GSA create an opinion letter beyond just an SaaS?
I don't think we have an answer to that.
No worries. And again, if we don't have an answer, we will send those, we will follow up with those questions later. Okay, the next question, it says, regarding the difference between MAS and the GWAC. This was someone else's question, but was not transferred. Sorry, let me skip to a different question. Looks like it kind of partially got in there. So let me go to the next one.
Sorry about that. That was me.
Oh, no worries, no worries. What are the solicitation procedures? Is this simplified procedures, seal bidding, simplified acquisition procedures, seal bidding, or et cetera?
Can we say that question one more time? I'm sorry.
Yes, and it could be that it came in partially as well, but it says, what are the solicitation? And then is it basically they're asking, is it a simplified acquisition procedures? Are they using seal bidding methods or any other methods, et cetera?
With regard to which vehicle?
Now that
I think I can do a little clairvoyance here. I think what they're trying to ask is the difference in how the schedule works and how a GWAC works. Now, the biggest difference I can tell between how the schedule works and how GWAC works is this. The schedule is a self-service platform. You bring your own contracting officer to the party. You run competitions. You make awards and so forth, using the special item numbers in the schedule to as a Dewey Decimal System to figure out where your products and services lie. A GWAC, many of the GWACs bring contracting officer services along with them. So you are essentially renting a contracting officer, and they assume a lot of the project risk. They assume a lot of the project rigmarole and what have you. That's the basic difference between the schedule and a GWAC, is that the schedule is self-service. And it has nothing to do with simplified acquisition, although you might say that the average, that the schedules process a lot more sales than GWACs, but at a lower dollar value. So not necessarily under or over the simplified acquisition threshold or SAT, but in that medium area that really doesn't qualify for a GWAC buy. Hope that helps.
Wonderful, wonderful. We have
Yeah,
some.
thank you. I see a connected one on GWAC saying, isn't OneGov absorbing the GWACs?
So that's a little bit outside of my knowledge area regarding OneGov. So I'd like to defer that question for a later time.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. We're getting wonderful questions in, wonderful audience interaction. And so we'll just keep going to the next question. Our next question is referencing cloud services. It says, my agency is working on moving to the cloud, but our leadership is worried about the cost. Can you share some general costs of cloud services to include software development and storage in the cloud? Also, my team's initial assumption was that the cost of the software development and storage in the cloud should be roughly similar to the cost of the purchase and periodic technical refresh of the server and related hardware.
I can take that one as well. It all depends. It depends on what you have today, what you don't have today, and how much of it you're moving to the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. The best thing we can do there is have a conversation about your specific situation. And you can reach us again at cloudinfo@gsa.gov, and we'll set up a call with you and talk through your specific situation, if that's okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it looks like we had that follow-up question to the question that we kind of stated a little bit earlier. To add a little bit more information, it says, to be clear on my question, the Army mandated us to purchase IT products through the U.S. Army chest. How is buying using to get different?
I can take that question as a system administrator for the Department of the Army for about 15 years before I came to GSA. The mandate and the situation with Army in particular, first of all, the enterprise license agreement runs everything. And that is tied into this consolidated buy schedules. So to circumvent that and the ITAS system that's mandated by all Department of Army, and if this is an Army person, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. If your MACOM lets you circumvent that through a waiver or that process, you have to go through that. But the Army CIO has directed that chess or digital market space will be where Army buys are conducted.
Wonderful.
I hope that answers your question. If
Wonderful.
not, please give us a little more and we can
so.
follow up. Yes, sorry.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. The next question is another kind of a piggyback off of a previous discussion. It says, you just mentioned agencies can create their own BPAs off mass. When would an agency use 2GIT rather than creating their own BPA? What additional benefits or flexibility would an agency have with their own BPA for a particular commercial software, say ServiceNow, versus acquiring ServiceNow through 2GIT?
I think, again, it depends on individual situations. There are, in some cases, it's quicker just to use what is already there. And not all software is on 2GIT, but a majority of our software is on 2GIT, and that might just be the easier route. And sometimes agencies like to manage their own BPAs, and they get a little bit, they can add some terms into their BPAs that we don't have in ours. So it all depends on the situation. We certainly put the 2GIT BPA together so that it's open and easier to use for everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. And actually, we have another question regarding the BPA. It says, I need to create a BPA against mass for SaaS. The sole reseller for the OEM SaaS solution is the awardee of the mass. They are a large business. How can we use this mass so that our small business team will not prevent us?
you would have to work that out internally as well. If there's only one provider, there's only one provider. You can reach out to the OEM and see if they would engage a small business so that you can use a small business for that SaaS offering, or SaaS need, I should say. But if there's only one source, that you don't really have much of a choice.
Wonderful. And then there's
I'd like to add just a little bit to that, if I can, just to kind of
absolutely
supplement what Birgit has said, and that is that you know, using what exists, that was the first thing that came to mind for me, is always quicker because you don't have the full acquisition life cycle. So you're able to get stuff on the table more quickly. The other aspect of that is using 2Get does things for you that you don't have to do at all. And the catalog being developed and the services being developed, if they're repetitive and that sort of thing, that's where you have to make that decision as an organization. What do we want specialized? And that's what Birgit was mentioning. What do we want specialized that's different than what the mass vanilla, so to speak, not really vanilla because it's a best-in-class vehicle, offers, and versus what we want to do. And then that's where organizations opt to create their own contracts themselves, because they have those additional ancillary requirements that are either fed down from above or driven by the environment in which the system is going to operate.
wonderful, wonderful. And it looks like we may have time for maybe just one more question. I know we're getting to the end of the segment, so the next question is, when placing an order through the MAS, are we required to adhere to the MAS terms and conditions outlined in the contract?
You can layer your own terms and conditions on top of what's in the MAS terms and conditions, but I think that's the answer to that. But we'll get back with you on more information if that's not the case.
Perfect. And it looks like there's just another quick question regarding the RFQ. It says, am I permitted to send the RFQ to a specific list of 5 vendors on the MAS?
I can take it. Yes, the answer is yes, but the FAR part 8.4 does say that you need to make it available for all to be able to see that are on the SIN.
That
is awesome. Well, it looks like
climbing it.
Well, that's awesome. Our panelists have been amazing. Our audience has been amazing. You guys have asked some really, really amazing questions. Just a reminder that if your question did not get answered live, we will make sure that this is posted and get answered at a later time. We love the audience interaction. We love the chats and the comments. You've been an amazing audience. So I'm actually going to turn it back over to Kelly.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, I want to just echo what Jocelyn said. This has been so wonderful, wonderful speakers, really insightful questions. So thank you to everyone for your wonderful questions. And let's keep things rolling. So we have already had a break, and I think we are ready to roll into our next session. In our next session, we will be diving into all things GWAC. So I'm happy to introduce our speakers. Amanda Willis is a business management specialist in the Office of IT Services, Program Support Division. In her role at GSA, she supports both industry partners and customers in the development of customized solutions for informational technology services and requirements. She currently provides support for the Polaris Small Business GWAC. Victoria Kezica McFarland is an IT specialist in the Program Support Division for IT Services. Her role involves working with small businesses, I should say, to provide pre-negotiated IT service contracts to federal agency customers. All right, with that, I will turn it over to Amanda and Victoria. The floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
and
Kelly.
We can see the slide deck. Looks good.
Great, perfect. Yep, thank you so much for having us. And it was really exciting in the last round to hear all the questions on GWAC. So hopefully, as we go through our presentation today, we can address a lot of your questions there. So our goal today is going to be to make learning about the GWACs not only informative, but hopefully a little bit fun. We understand that contract vehicles can sometimes seem complex. So we're here to break things down in a way that's clear and easy to follow. So by the end of this session, you'll have a solid understanding of what a GWAC is, the options that GSA offers, and how these powerful tools can help your agency efficiently acquire IT services and solutions. So we'll start with the basics. What is a government-wide acquisition contract and why they matter? Then we'll walk through the key roles and responsibilities within the GWAC program and explain how agencies can access and use a GWAC. Next, we will outline what's in scope. Then we'll cover the ordering process and highlight helpful resources and tools available to assist ordering offices and provide a quick summary of the essential contract details. And finally, to close things out, we will open up the floor to any questions you might have. I saw some people jumping in on the questions. We have a couple GWAC experts out there jumping in today. Belinda is also going to be online answering your questions as they come up. So we know it's the end of a long day. We're coming up on we're the third hour here, and you've already taken in a lot of information. So to keep things light and engaging today, we've kind of sprinkled in a few fun trivia questions throughout. Now with these questions, there is no pressure to answer. You don't have to answer in a poll. We're not taking a chat, none of that. It's just a fun way to keep you guys engaged as we go through this information. So first up, who are we? The GWAC Government Acquisition Contract Program is organized into two primary divisions. So the first one is the Small Business GWAC Acquisition Division, and this division manages our socioeconomic set-aside GWACs, and that's going to include 8A Stars 3, which stands for Streamlined Technology Acquisition Resource for Services. And this contract is set aside for 8A small businesses. The division also oversees VETS 2, which is a GWAC specifically set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, or SDV OSBs. And then we have our Enterprise GWAC division. And this division administers the Alliant 2, a full and open GWAC designed for large businesses that offer comprehensive IT solution. So with that, we will kick off our first trivia question, and that is, what is a GWAC? Is it A, established by one agency for government-wide use? B, a task or delivery order contract for information technology? C, operated by an executive agent designated by the OMB? Or D, all of the above? And I'm sure you guessed, the correct answer is D, all of the above. And now we're going to go cover this information in a little bit more detail. So a government-wide acquisition contract, or GWAC, is a pre-competed, multiple award, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, commonly known as IDIQ contract. Now, these contracts are designed to help federal agencies acquire total IT solutions in a more efficient and cost-effective manner. GWACs are operated by an executive agent, in this case, GSA, which is designated by the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB. So this means that certain federal agencies have the authority to manage these contracts on behalf of all federal agencies, ensuring that there's a standardized process and efficient management across the board. So one key feature of our GWACs is that they are not subject to the Economy Act, as outlined in the FAR. So what this means is that agencies can use GWACs without needing to justify that the services being acquired are not available from within their organization. So essentially, GWACs offer a streamlined path for federal agencies to access IT solutions without the need for justifications or approvals. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria to discuss GSA responsibilities.
Thank you, Amanda. I am now going to discuss what our responsibilities are as a program office. On this next slide, you will see a list of some of the main responsibilities of GSA GWAC office, but I'd like you to keep in mind that this is in no way an all-inclusive list of our responsibilities. First, GSA is responsible for establishing and managing the GWACs with guidance from OMB. We have a team of skilled personnel who assist client agencies with how to properly use the GWACs. This team conducts DPA training via live webinars and online formats. And after completing the training, we issue DPA letters to eligible warranted contracting officers. Our responsibilities at GSA also include conducting regular meetings with our industry partners. We do this to discuss program status, to talk about upcoming changes to regulations, and we also provide educational training to really make sure that our industry partners are successful. Our team is also responsible for managing and maintaining the GSA.gov websites for the GWAC program. And we do this to make sure the information is accurate and is up to date. Our contracting team performs risk mitigation and contractor oversight. So this can include things such as conducting pre-award scope reviews upon request. They also monitor subcontracting at the basic or master contract level. And they also modify contracts to incorporate new federal acquisition regulation clauses as required. So, continuing on with the discussion of our responsibilities, our office conducts post-award scope reviews to ensure that task orders being issued are within scope of the contract. As Amanda mentioned earlier, our office is responsible for reporting certain information to OMB. Following on this slide is a sampling of some of the information we report to OMB. This includes an assessment of client satisfaction, competition on orders, the cumulative number and total dollar value of orders, as well as the number and value of performance-based orders. And lastly, once a master contract is complete, GSA will conduct the closeout on that contract. I can tell there is some excitement about these trivia questions. So we do have another one for you. I will let you go ahead and read the question. And when you're ready, pick the correct answer. This is multiple choice. So go ahead and pick what you think is the best choice for this question. The answer is all the above. So if you picked D, that is the correct answer. So one of the features of the GSA GWACs is the assisted acquisitions. Orders can be issued against by an agency's own staff or using an assisted acquisition service. I will talk about this very shortly on the next few slides. Also, procurement lead time is drastically reduced. And this is because contracts are already fully competed and projects become task orders against an existing GWAC contract. Another feature is we have worldwide coverage, and GWACs may be used for solutions needed anywhere in the world. So our industry partners can provide IT services both within the United States and outside of the United States. And you do get socioeconomic credit. So all the small business GWACs provide agencies with access to qualified small businesses and the associated socioeconomic credit. I would like to mention here, actually, this is good. So there are several other features of why you would use a GWAC. And one of those is that all GSA GWACs are designated as best in class by the Office of Management and Budget, or what we sometimes call as BIC or BIC, the acronym. So OMB encourages contracting officers to use BIC solutions for their agency needs. We also have a wide variety of contract types to pick from. And as you can see on this slide, these include fixed price, cost reimbursement, time and material, and labor hour. Now, keep in mind that contract type availability varies by contract. Additionally, for Alliant 2, Alliant 2 allows for requirements type task orders. Another great benefit is that GWACs have a low contract access fee of only 0.75%. So this contract access fee, or CAF, is applied to the total amount paid on each invoice for work completed. This is paid to the contractor, who then pays to GSA. There are some additional features that I would like to go over here. And the first one is that all our vendors have been vetted and evaluated to be qualified to provide high quality IT services. And these vendors have been proven to be able to meet large scale task requirements. Lastly, there's limited protestability. And every contracting officer will tell you no protestability is music to the ears. So protests are not authorized on task orders under 10 million, except on grounds that the order increases the scope, if the period of performance or maximum value of the GWAC are exceeded. On this next slide, we will talk about how to access a GWAC. So let's talk about how to access our GWACs. There are two ways to access our GWACs. The first is through direct acquisition. So you may be wondering, what is a direct acquisition and what's involved? So direct acquisition is when the agency uses their own contracting office to issue and administer task orders. So this is a great choice if the agency needs no help with acquisitions whatsoever. The second option for accessing our GWACs is through GSA's Assisted Acquisition Service or any other agency's AAS office. This is an option if you do not have acquisition personnel to support you in procuring your requirement. Now, before we move on, I would like to note that GSA's Assisted Acquisition Services use a sliding fee scale. And there are several factors that determine that fee. For example, it may be based on the complexity, the dollar amount of the procurement, as well as any interagency agreements that are already in place. Essentially, what would happen is that you submit your requirements to that office, and those requirements are reviewed first, and then you would be provided with what the fee is. The GSA's Assisted Acquisition Service website is aas.gsa.gov. Our office does not do assisted acquisitions, but we are always happy to put you in touch with the right person at the Assisted Acquisition Service office. I will now turn the presentation over to Amanda, who will discuss the GWAC scope.
Thank you, Victoria. So now I'm going to take a moment to talk about the scope of GWAC. So over the next few slides, we're going to cover what's considered in scope for a GWAC task order, as well as some important limitations to keep in mind when putting together your requirements. So GWACs give federal agencies access to customize IT services and IT service-based solutions, including both commercial and non-commercial options, as defined by the Clinger-Cohen Act and FAR 2.101. Now, these services can be tailored to meet the unique mission needs of your agency and may include any combination of IT services that are outlined in Section C of the solicitations, including new and emerging technologies that develop over the life of the contract. GWACs also allow for ancillary support. So what this means is that hardware, software licenses, equipment, telecommunications, wireless and satellite products and services, and even non-IT services can be included in your task order as long as it directly supports an IT service or an IT service-based solution. So having said that, the primary purpose of a GWAC task order cannot be solely for purchasing commodities like laptops or non-IT services like legal consulting. But these items can be included when they directly support the IT solution. And we're going to talk more about that. So as I mentioned, ancillary support can be included in your task order. These items must be integral and necessary to the overall IT solution. And you're going to hear me use that phrase a lot through these slides. And they cannot be the primary purpose of the task order. So for example, if you are procuring help desk services and you need an administrative assistant to support the team, their role, even if not strictly IT related, can be included in the task order if it's critical to the success of the IT service. Please note that IDIQ blanket purchase agreements and letter contracts are not allowed under the use of GSA GWACs. So now we're going to have a little fun while learning about the scope of GSA GWACs and how it applies to real-world scenarios. So for our first question, an agency has a need to perform custom programming on software, which requires the purchase of 3 software licenses. Now, true or false? This is not allowed because it contains the purchase of product. This is false, and that's because IT service-based solutions can include ancillary components. So when you're trying to decide if a requirement fits the scope within of a GWAC, we recommend that you just take a step back and look at the full picture. Think about what work actually needs to be done to meet the end goal. Also consider the mix of products and services that are going to be involved. So if the primary focus is on delivering IT services and everything else supports that effort, then it may be a good fit for a GWAC. So for our next question, an agency has a requirement to purchase 500 servers, and part of that requirement, we'll say about $20,000, is for integration services. Now, this is not allowed on a GSA GWAC because it is predominantly IT hardware. Is this true or false? And the correct answer here is that it is true. Even though there is a services component to this requirement, it is still predominantly for IT products. So that means it falls outside the scope of our GWACs. Now, the key takeaway here is that GWACs must be used for IT services-based solutions, not commodity-heavy purchases. So here's another one, true or false. You have a requirement to expand your data center. This is going to include updates to your office space, like tearing down the walls, running new electrical wiring, replacing the carpet, and so on. True or false, the construction portion would have to be competed as a separate contract. And the answer to this is false. So in this case, the office updates are considered ancillary support. Because they're integral and necessary to completing the IT service-based solution, they can be included in the GWAC task order. And this is a great example of how flexible GWACs can be as long as everything ties back to the primary IT objective. So one of the valuable services that our office offers is the Advanced Pre-Award Scope Review. And this review helps you confirm whether your requirement, whether it's your statement of work, a performance work statement, or statement of objectives, falls within the scope of our GWAC contracts. To access the scope review tool, you'll need to sign in using your OMB Max credentials. This is a free service. There is no obligation to use one of our GWACs, even if your requirement is found to be in scope. The reviews are conducted by a team of experienced contracting professionals, and in most cases, you will receive a determination within 5 business days or less. Now, if you have any questions about this service, you can always reach out and email us. It is at sowreview@gsa.gov. One last note is that if your requirement is determined to be within scope, the review letter is great documentation to keep in your contract file. This is going to provide support for your decision to use one of our GSA GWACs. And this is going to take us into our next trivia question. And so here we're going to take a look at whether this requirement is within scope or not. So in this scenario, an agency has submitted a request involving national security systems with a need for services like security testing, software development, and IT operations and maintenance. On the surface, these are all services that could fall within a GWAC. However, there are a few issues with the submission. The performance work statement is very limited. It doesn't provide enough detail or clearly define the specific work to be done. It only notes that both hardware and software will play a major role in the requirement. In addition, the independent government cost estimate was not included. And this is an important document for us that helps determine whether the majority of the work is focused on IT services and not on hardware or other elements. And finally, in the submission, the NAICS code is 99999, and this is not a valid NAICS code. So for GWACs, we do require the use of an appropriate IT services NAICS code for proper classification, and we're going to cover what those are later. So with this information, what do you think will be the result of the scope review? And as I'm sure you guessed, while this requirement ultimately could be in scope, it's not ready for a formal determination. To move forward, we would recommend that you resubmit this scope review with a few key updates. It's going to include a performance work statement and a detailed IGCE that shows labor categories and cost, and also a valid NAICS code. So providing this information will help us review your request more efficiently, and it's going to allow us to provide you with a timely response. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Victoria, and she's going to go over the ordering process.
Thank you, Amanda. We will now get into the GWAC ordering process. So on this next slide, you can see that we've provided a high-level overview of the competitive task order process. So this visual succinctly captures the steps that are involved in the ordering process. So first, if you are a contracting officer, this is step one. As a contracting officer who is going to sign the award documents or any modifications, you must attend the Delegation of Procurement Authority or DPA training for the GWAC you wish to utilize. And once you've done that, you can request your DPA after the training. And once you have your DPA, you're ready to start making orders. Now, after you get your DPA, we do call that an ordering contracting officer, or I'm not sure what happened there. But throughout the process, if you hear the term OCO, that simply refers to a contracting officer who has their DPA. So as an ordering contracting officer, you are in control and will develop your own acquisition strategy. This includes defining your requirements and also ensuring that fair opportunity is provided to all contract holders in the applicable contractor pool, unless, of course, there's a documented exception to fair opportunity. The average response time once the RFQ or RFP is submitted is about between 4 and 5 business days. Now, here in step 3, in order to ensure that all our industry partners receive fair opportunity as required, you would have, or we suggest that you use GSA eBuy. This is because all our contractors are required to be in eBuy, and so you would meet the fair opportunity requirement. So if you are sending out a request for information or RFI, you can send that RFI to the contractor pools for any or all of our GWACs. But when you issue the request for proposal, that RFP or RFQ, it needs to be specific to only one GWAC before issuing the proposal. So ordering contracting officers have to be clear or know what GWAC they want to compete under. In step 4, the contract holders will then compete on your requirement. And in step 5, you will receive the proposals and you will evaluate them in the manner which is consistent with your solicitation. Next, you will issue a task order award to an industry partner and send a copy of the award to the applicable GWAC office. One thing to keep in mind is that the OCO has to have a DPA for the applicable GWAC, but things like posting your request for proposal can be done by anyone, whether they have a DPA or not. Only the OCO with a DPA for the applicable GWAC can issue awards and modifications or terminate task orders. In step 8, the awardee performs through the life of the task order, and you will continuously update the applicable GWAC office with all modifications. And once performance ends, you will close out the task order, and if applicable, you will conduct past performance reviews and update the CPAS record with those ratings. Lastly, you will send out a closeout modification to the vendor and to the applicable GWAC office. I will now talk about our GWAC labor categories, or LCATs. There are 3 different types of labor categories. As listed on your screen here, we have the standard IT service LCAT, we have non-standard IT service, and we have ancillary service. Now, please note that LCATs only apply to 2 contract types, that is labor hour and time and material. There are 31 standard IT service LCATs, and each one of those are based on a subset of the Department of Labor standard occupational classifications. Additionally, each one of the standard IT service LCATs has 4 skill levels associated with it. You have journeyman, junior, senior, and subject matter expert. So really, in total, there's a number of 124 different standard IT service LCATs that are defined at the master contract level. We do ask that every effort be made to use the standard IT service LCATs before resorting to non-standard IT service LCATs. The ancillary service LCATs are for integral and necessary ancillary services, and these are services that are done in conjunction with the IT service that is the main focus of your task order. An example of an ancillary service was provided earlier by Amanda. The OCO is responsible to ensure that additional labor categories are in compliance with service contract labor standards and wage rate requirements, and where applicable, include appropriate clauses and wage determinations. Now, before we move on to the next slide, there is a caveat here that I'd like to share. So the caveat is that even though the master contract allows for integral and necessary ancillary services such as construction to be performed under its task orders, the ordering agency may have a policy against including some ancillary services in an IT contract. As such, OCOs using the master contract are limited by their agency's policy. We will now talk about the tools for ordering officers. We will now cover some of those tools available to you to use to help you when using our GWACs. The first tool that is very useful is our GWAC main page. Here you will find links
Okay. Yep, I think Victoria might have froze up there, so I'll jump in
Yeah.
here.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So on this page, you're going to find the links to all of the individual contract web pages. That's going to be for each of our GWACs out there. These contract web pages contain a full copy of the master contract. They're going to contain a copy of the ordering guide, the ceiling prices, a spreadsheet with the industry partners, along with their point of contact information. And then there's also going to be a frequently asked questions section, along with features of each contract. Ooh, do we have Victoria back? Okay. Additionally, on the main GWAC page that we provided a link to, the GWAC dashboard is there, and this is going to be a great tool if you want to look and see what agencies have issued orders against each of the GWACs, how much they have obligated, and it's also going to help you see which industry partners have received awards. Then next we have provided a link to eBuy that Victoria covered earlier, and looks like she's back on here, so I will turn it back over to Victoria to finish out the slide.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So when it comes to eBuy, as I mentioned earlier, here you can post your request for quote, request for proposal, or request for information. But as I mentioned, we do highly recommend that you post your RFQs to eBuy to meet the fair opportunity requirements. On this next slide, I will not go over all the tools and links on this page, but to avoid redundancy, I will just mention a few things. So Amanda, if you go to the next slide, we will see those tools that I'm talking about. One of those tools that I want to mention that I want to talk on is the acquisition gateway. And I believe this is the third last row here on your screen. So with the acquisition gateway, you can find sample documents and acquisition templates, which are always helpful for OCOs. I would also like to point out the events page where you can find and you can register for live DPA training webinars. And that page is gsa.gov/events. We will now go over to the next slide. Here, you will find that we've provided you with contact details for our GWACs. And I'd like to point out that when you send an email to any of these group email addresses, your email will be accessible by anyone on the GWAC team. And so if one member is out, you can always rest guaranteed that you will receive a quick response from any other member of the team as they have access to these emails. Now, to the right of your screen, you will see links that provide short overview videos of our respective GWACs, and this can be viewed whenever you would like to view them. I will now turn it over to you, Amanda, and so that you can go over the basic contract information.
Okay, thank you, Victoria. Yep, in this section, I'm going to cover the basic contract features, key information about each of our GSE AGWACs to help you better understand how they can support your agency's IT needs. So here we provided a helpful table summarizing each of GSA's current GWACs. Now it's taken everything that we've talked about here today and it's placed it in an easy to read table where you can conduct a side-by-side comparison of each of our GWACs out there. So now we've covered a lot of this information, so it should be able to move through this a little bit quickly. The first one that we're going to talk about is Alliant 2. This is our unrestricted GWAC. This does include large businesses. It was awarded with a $75 billion ceiling, which has since been increased to $82.5 billion. There are currently 38 industry partners on this contract. Next up, we have the 8A Star 3 GWAC, which is exclusively set aside for 8A businesses. It was awarded with a $50 billion ceiling. Agencies can receive socioeconomic credit for awards under Stars 3. Now on 8A Stars 3, something that sets it apart is sole source orders are allowed up to the 8A competitive threshold of 4.5 million. For certain tribal entities, that threshold increases up to 25 million for civilian agencies and 100 million for DoD. With 8A Stars, SBA offered acceptance is required for these sole source or directed orders, but it is not required for orders that are competed. Stars 3 includes a main area and 2 sub areas. One of the sub areas is emerging technology, and the other is for OCONUS work. Now, these sub areas may only be used when the requirement specifically does involve those areas. And then the last thing I want to point out here is the contract currently has 1,098 industry partners, but we do recommend that you check out the industry partner spreadsheet on the 8A3 Stars website. The link was provided in the last slide, and that's going to have the most up-to-date numbers of the vendors that are out there. And finally, we have VETS 2. And as I mentioned earlier, this is set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses or SDV OSBs. It now has a $6.1 billion ceiling. It was increased from $5 billion in June of 2024. There are currently 45 industry partners. 36 of those SDV OSBs can compete for task orders. The other 9 are other than small businesses who are only eligible for sole source follow-on work from their original VETS 2 awards. They are unable to compete on new orders. And then as Victoria mentioned, all of our GWACs allow for worldwide coverage, and all of them have been designated as best-in-class contracts by OMB. So now we're going to talk about a few of the important contract details that apply to all of our GWACs. First up, as Victoria mentioned, all 3, Alliant 2, Stars 3, and VETS 2 allow for fixed price, labor hour, time and materials, or a hybrid of these contracts. Now, in addition, Alliant 2 and VETS 2 also allow for cost reimbursement contracts, and Alliant 2 specifically allows for requirements contracts as well. So next up, we have NAICS codes, and I said earlier that we would come back to this. All of our GWACs were awarded under their primary NAICS code of 541512, which is for Computer System Design Services. Now, this code is used for size determinations. However, other IT service-related NAICS codes are also in scope, and that's going to include 545111, 541513, 541519, and 518210. Now, they're not limited to these either. So any task order that is using a predominantly IT service NAICS code is going to be allowed under our GWACs. So next up, we are going to cover period of performance. Alliant 2 was awarded with a 5-year base and a 5-year option. The option was exercised in June of 2023, so the ordering period now runs through June 30th of 2028. STARS 3 has a 5-year base with a 3-year option. The current ordering period ends July 1st of 2026. Pending the option being exercised, it will extend through July 1st of 2029. Then we have VETS 2, which was also awarded with a 5-year base and a 5-year option that has been exercised, and this is going to extend through February 22nd of 2028. Now, it's important to know that any task order placed during the order period can have performance that extends up to 5 years beyond the end date. So currently, that takes Alliant 2 out to June 30th of 2033. It's going to take STARS 3 task orders through July 1st of 2031, if the option is exercised through July 1st of 2034. VETS 2 orders will be able to go through February 22nd of 2033. Just a reminder here, task orders must be awarded before the contract's ordering end date to take advantage of that extended performance window. So Victoria already covered the CAF. One thing I do want to point out, take a moment to point out, is that Alliant 2 does have a CAF cap. So for directed awards, the cap is $150,000 per 12-month period of performance. And then for GSA assisted acquisition task orders, that cap is $100,000 per 12-month period. So we've covered a lot of the information in this table, so I'm just going to briefly touch base on what's here. So first, all of our GWACs are pre-competed. So what that means is that they are ready to use with streamlined ordering procedures under FAR 16.505. In addition to this, STARS 3 offers even more flexibility by allowing directed or sole source awards up to the competitive threshold, and that's under the authority of 19.8. Also, as Victoria mentioned, our GWACs have limited protestability. Again, any contracting officer, that's something that we all love to hear. And finally, all GWACs support integrated IT service solutions. So whether that's commercial or non-commercial, you can include products and non-IT services in your task order. Again, I told you I was going to use this phrase a lot throughout the presentation, as long as it is integral and necessary to the overall IT solution. So now I'm going to send it back to Victoria, and she is going to wrap up our presentation.
Thank you, Amanda. I want to share with you the latest GWAC stats, which are provided on this slide. I will not go over each value in detail, but what I would like to point out is that for each GWAC, you will find that we've provided a total number of all the task orders that were awarded against the GWAC. You will find we've provided the obligated dollars for that GWAC, as well as the average number of proposals received, and the top 5 agencies that have placed orders on that GWAC. So sometimes this is helpful for market research. Now that you know a thing or two about our existing contracts, I would like to introduce our future GWACs. The first is Polaris. Polaris has 4 separate set-aside pools, which include small business, woman-owned small business, service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, and HubZone. The small business pool has been awarded, currently waiting on the notice to proceed to be issued. Some of the features of Polaris include no contract ceiling, It will support emerging technology and O'Connor's requirements and will be awarded with a 5-year base and 5-year option. We've also been busy working on the next generation of the Alliant family, that's Alliant 3. And we put out 2 drafts of the RFP for comments and issued the RFP or the final RFP on June 28th. I would like to point out some of the enhancements of Alliant 3. These include being unrestricted, but it has enhanced opportunities for small businesses. There is no contract ceiling, and there is a 10-year period of performance with a 5-year base and 5-year option. And just like that, we are at the summary of our presentation. So some of the highlights to walk away with are the features of our GWACs, including comprehensive IT service-based solutions, access to qualified pool of premier contractors, and pre-computed, flexible, easy-to-use contract vehicles. You get socioeconomic credit, as well as limited protestability. We will now go on to the next slide, where we share with you our upcoming DPA trainings, along with direct links to register for the training. I'd like to point out that if you will notice we have OGWAC training as well as the other training for other contracts. But if you take the OGWAC training, you will obtain a DPA for all 3 GWACs. In other words, if you take, for example, VETS 2 DPA training, you only get a DPA for VETS 2. But if you take all GWAC training, you get for all 3 GWACs. We are now going to launch a poll to help us gauge your interest in these upcoming GWAC trainings. So, Kelly? So if you'd like to take a minute to answer the poll on your screen, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. The answers are coming in, so we'll give people just a minute to answer, but lots of great information. This was wonderful. And I know, well, Victoria, before we jump into Q&A, I'm gonna give, oh, yeah, people are still answering. So before we get to Q&A, do you want to add anything else? And then we'll come back to the poll.
No, there's nothing to add except that if you have any questions, we highly encourage you to put them in the chat. We do have a subject matter expert that is responding to those questions, but I'll turn it over to you, Kelly. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we do have a little bit of time still for some Q&A, but beforehand, yep, looks like hopefully most people have answered. It's slowing down. So I am going to go ahead and end this poll and share the results. So what we have here, it looks like most people said all GSA GWACs, DPA training, 2 CLPs. So that was the most popular answer there.
Yeah,
that.
that's the one you get the most bang for your buck. So yeah, you can get 3
Yep.
DPAs, 1 training. So and I pulled that slide back up so you guys can see when you get a copy of the slides, there is a link that you can go sign up for that training. And we will also be reaching out to you as well with those links.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yep. And there were some people who answered for all of the other answers as well.
Yes.
All right. With that, let's go ahead and we have a few minutes here. So let's jump into Q&A. I know that Belinda and Jocelyn Belinda's been busy answering all the questions in the Q&A pod. Thank you so much, Belinda. And Jocelyn, I believe, was going to help jump in there, but until Jocelyn,
Absolutely.
yeah, okay. I'll let you jump in and read some of the questions you picked out.
Yep,
Wonderful,
there is one question I do want to address on here. I did see where we have a link that's not working. So I'm going to go ahead and post the correct link in the chat. So thank you. Somebody pointed out that dashboard link is not working.
I have put that in the chat and the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That is fabulous. Well, wonderful.
Some of our links, some of our links are not working because they're updating our websites. So as they're updating the website, some of our links are getting broken. So this is the first training that we've had that one has not worked. But we've been trying to keep an eye on them. So I have provided a direct link to the dashboard, and we'll try and get that link fixed too.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that's great. Well, thank you. Like they mentioned, we have a subject matter expert on. You guys have asked some amazing questions, so we're just going to address a few of these questions live since we have a few minutes for questions. So again, audience interaction, thank you so much. So we'll hop into one of the first questions, and that question is there a ceiling dollar amount on GWAC?
So as Amanda had stated when she went over each individual GWAC, there is a ceiling per the master contract. We don't have a ceiling like for task orders, as long as there's still enough ceiling in the master contract to cover the amount of the task order. So for example, Amanda just pulled up the contract ceiling for Line 2. There's an $82.5 billion ceiling. STARS 3 has a $50 billion ceiling, and BETS 2 has a $6.1 billion ceiling.
Yeah. So I know, like, I believe it's NIH that has the 20 billion per industry partner. We don't have that here. It is per the contract.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next question is, do you provide core duties on orders placed against your GWAC as well?
So on that question, it depends on if you use your own contracting office, that's up to you if you want to assign a core to be the core for that task order. If you use assisted acquisition, typically if you want, they'll have an agency core because they're going to be on site for the work. So they can have a core agency provided core, or if GSA needs to provide a core, I think that would be something you'd have to address with the assisted acquisition office.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, another question is for services contracts and future services requirements. Most recently, GSA focused and reviewed the complexity and efforts in streamlining contracts associated with the particular NAICS 561-110, 561-210, and 561-499. Can GSA give any further advice as far as using the relevant NAICS mentioned in the future service requirements?
So now I'm not really sure on the question now. Our NAICS codes, as Amanda stated, they were awarded under 541, 512. But our GWACs allow for any NAICS code that's predominantly for IT services. So if those NAICS codes are for predominantly IT services, they'd be allowed under the GWACs.
Wonderful. And the next question is, are there GWACs TS support personnel to support special access programs?
So on that question, I thought they were asking for the top secret clearance. So I provided that, and they were looking for special programs for DCMA financing. And I know we have industry partners that have accounting systems that have been approved by DCMA and DFAST because they've cost reimbursement type allowed. So I'm not sure in regards to what kind of special programs they're looking for in regards to our GWACs on that question.
Okay, no worries. And just a reminder, we will be following up. We have a lot of these questions answered that were answered live. Thank you to Belinda, but we will be following up with those responses and sending those questions out that were not able to get addressed in today's training. So let's just keep moving. Another question is, and can we limit, sorry.
Can they limit that question? Can they limit the number of people they send their RFQs to? Is that the question?
Yes. Sorry, it kind of came in a little.
No, In regards to GWACs, no. GWACs require fair opportunity in accordance with 16.505. So fair opportunity is required unless you have an exception to fair opportunity, and you can find those exceptions in 16.505. Those would be sole source type exceptions. But keep in mind, I know sometimes with especially the STARS 3, there's 1,000 industry partners, that it kind of scares our CEOs that they hear they have to send out their RFQ to 1,000 industry partners. The typical response is 6 to 8 responses to RFQs. With Alliant 2 and VETS 2, there's smaller pools, but you do have to provide fair opportunity to all the industry partners when you post an RFQ or RFP to our GWACs.
Perfect. And it looks like we have another question. It says, could you please clarify whether the requesting agency is responsible for paying the 0.75 fee, 75% fee?
So the 0.75% fee, or the CAF, the contractor access fee, which I'm referring to as CAF. The CAF is paid to the industry partner, and it will show on the proposals and on your invoices as a separate plan or line item. It is always supposed to be show us that way, so you'll know exactly what the CAF is. And then the industry partner actually pays GSA the CAF. The customer it's built into the customer's invoice. They pay it to the industry partner, and then the industry partner is responsible for paying us that 0.75%.
Great. And like I said, looks like we have a few more minutes for a couple more questions. It says, can one still put in a proposal for the new GWACs?
And that one I was clarifying, if they're asking, can new industry partners submit proposals? No. On our upcoming GWACs, all of our solicitations are closed as of now, so new proposals cannot be submitted for any of our GWACs at this time because they're all closed. The solicitations have closed. They're not like mass where they're open. They're just open for a limited time, and then their evaluations and awards are made. And then if later on in the contract there's a determination to have an open season, they can contracting can make a determination to have an open season to allow reopen that solicitation to allow new vendors onto the GWACs.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'll just take time for one more question. And it says, are you going to send out those classes coming up?
Yes, they are going to. They took that survey, and I know that Amanda and Victoria were going to collect the emails for anybody who submitted that, yes, they'd like to. They're going to send out the schedule for the upcoming classes with the link to register for those classes.
Yep, that is correct. And also in that email, we will provide, there are options besides attending the trainings. We have some YouTube videos and that, and we'll include all of those in there as well.
And there's one more question I wanted to answer live, because I know it was asked the last time at the last presentation. What's the difference between a GSA, GWAC, and a MAS? So I wanted to get into a little more detail there. So GWACs, you can use your own contracting officer, and a majority of our orders issued against the GWACs are with an agency using their own contracting office. The main differences between a GWAC and a MAS is GWACs allow for non-commercial items, where MAS does not. GWACs, certain GWACs, the only one that doesn't is our STAR 3. They allow for cost reimbursement type task orders, which MAS do not. They also, GWACs allow for the flexibility to add those non-IT components, the products, services, hardware, software, all onto one task order, as long as it's integral and necessary to the IT service solution, where MAS doesn't have that same flexibility. So those are just a few of the differences that I wanted to get into a little more detail on, because I know that question was asked in the last presentation also.
I appreciate that, Melinda. Thank you for that clarification. And I think a key word that we've heard is integral and necessary. So I think that's definitely a key takeaway to this. So again, I appreciate that the questions that you guys provided, the answers that were provided by our amazing presenters and support. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Kelly to close it out.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, I will echo that. Just amazing information here, some really great subject matter experts. So thank you all again. Thank you, Victoria, Amanda, Belinda, Jocelyn, you too. Thank you so much. This was great. Good clarification on the differences between GWAC and MASS as well, I thought. So just really great information through the whole presentation, and I enjoyed those trivia questions. Hopefully everyone else did also. I would like to thank you all for joining us for this FAST 2025 ITC event. You have been a tremendous audience, and I speak for everyone involved when I say thank you for taking the time to participate today. Just a reminder, all attendees will receive 3 CLPs, and those CLPs are expected to appear in your FAI CSOD transcript within the upcoming weeks following the event. In the interim, or in the meanwhile, please hold off, pause on submitting any external training requests to CSOD to allow time for the express CLPs to post in your official record. That concludes today's event. Thank you all again. Stay safe, be kind to one another, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.